Getting superpowers was actually way easier than anyone would have thought. Excum just stood there staring up at the sky, yelling as loud as he could. That was all it took. Out of nowhere, a battle axe with a deep red blade came crashing down from above. The boy, who used to look weak, just had to grab the weapon. His whole body buzzed with energy, like he'd just leveled up in a game and unlocked a new power. It was wild. He could almost feel the strength running through his arms and legs, making him stand taller and more confident than ever before. Back then, strange things kept happening out of nowhere. All over the world, strange cracks started showing up out of nowhere. Every place was crawling with monsters, and trouble seemed to be waiting around every turn. But there were also tons of treasures hidden inside. The boy's name was Luo. He was the kind of guy who always had a bow in his hands, practicing whenever he got the chance. Archery wasn't just a hobby for him. It was something he was really good at, and everyone around him knew it. Whether he was aiming at targets or just messing around with friends, Luo always stood out for his skills. He didn't have any crazy powers or anything, but when it came to these rifts, he really knew what he was doing. He'd been through enough of them to pick up the tricks and shortcuts, so people trusted him to get them through safely. Was standing next to him the guy who'd hired him for this trip. The guys had one job: track down the Wind Spirit Pearl and get it to Miss Ming. Word around town was that she was so good-looking, people couldn't help but catch feelings the second they saw her. The team kept moving forward, not really expecting anything out of the ordinary. Then, out of nowhere, something weird caught their eye. Bodies were scattered all over the ground up ahead. Right up front, a huge, scary beast was hunched over the bodies, eating. There was a monster out there, a panther with a weirdly twisted, ghostly head. The thing noticed them right away when they moved. Someone pointed out that the creature was a top-level beast, and everyone around instantly got tense. Even the guys who usually acted tough started taking a step back, realizing this wasn't just another random monster. The air felt heavier as they sized up the threat in front of them. 1 second the panther was right there, and then it was just gone, moving so fast that no one could keep up with where it went. That's when they finally noticed it had already leveled up to Tier 2. No one saw it coming. The beast suddenly sprang forward and grabbed one of the guys, catching everyone off guard. It happened so fast. 1 second the guy was standing there, and the next he was gone. Just like that, the thing bit him, and he didn't even have a chance. After that, the thing set its sights on Luo. Right when things were about to get out of hand, the rich kid jumped in front of him. He let out a loud yell, powering up and using his 8-demon strength. The panther swiped at him, but he held his ground, taking the hit straight on, his muscles and bones holding up against the panther's claw. Luo spotted an opening and quickly raised his bow, getting ready to take the shot. He took careful aim right at the creature's eye and let the arrow fly. Suddenly, a loud scream cut through everything. For a second, it was like someone flipped off the lights. He couldn't see a thing. The ghost-head panther lost control, snapping and rushing straight at them, wild and unpredictable. Right at that moment, the team's spearmen jumped in and managed to stop the attack, but it was close. They almost didn't make it. But right then, the beast's jaws lit up with a strange, creepy glow. Someone realized what was about to happen, but by then, it was over. The creature let out a sound wave that blasted through the area, hitting everyone nearby before they could react. A few seconds passed, and Luo found himself the only one still on his feet. Everyone else from his team was knocked out, scattered across the floor. He was on his own now, completely outmatched by the monster. He stared down the beast, realizing things just got serious. It was time to pull out his last resort, the move he'd been saving for a moment like this. Right when the ghost-head panther's claw was coming down on Luo, everything seemed to slow down for a second. Luo braced himself, his heart pounding, knowing he was just a moment away from getting hit. Luo looked up at the sky and called for his axe, hoping it would answer. Dark, uneven lightning slashed through the sky, lighting everything up for a second before fading away. A huge battle axe, dark red like dried blood, came crashing down from above. The thing crashed down hard, breaking the ground and sending rocks flying everywhere. Luo moved fast, reaching out for the blood-red axe. He knew he had to get it before anyone else. His heart pounded as he kept his eyes locked on the prize, not wanting to give anyone a chance to beat him to it. Right then, his muscles started to swell, and he could feel a surge of strength rushing through his body. He grabbed the axe, tightened his grip, and ran straight at the ghost-head panther. He jumped up and slammed the axe down hard, putting all his strength into it. The Tier 2 ghost-head panther got sliced right down the middle, split into 2 neat halves. Right after that, he opened up a pocket dimension and tucked the blood-red axe inside, making sure it was out of sight. In just a second, Luo's body snapped back to normal. That wild power still buzzed in his mind. It was honestly addicting, but there was a catch. The axe he wielded had this dark vibe, like it wanted him to keep fighting no matter what. Luo knew if he held onto that form for too long, he'd lose himself and end up as someone who couldn't stop hurting people. He glanced down and saw his boss was hurt pretty bad. He reached into his bag and grabbed a healing vial. Not the best one, but good enough for now. He shoved the vial right into the employer's mouth, not giving him a chance to spit it out. Just then, someone suddenly landed from the cliff above. That was Inspector from Black Rock City. Luo stepped forward and noticed him right away. Luo froze when he heard the shout, and a chill ran down his spine. Instantly on edge, he quickly tried to figure out what the inspector was getting at. Stayed calm, telling everyone to relax. He just picked up on some wild energy nearby. It made him wonder if that mysterious giant with the blood axe had appeared again. Luo Tun quickly tried to clear things up. Out of nowhere, someone he didn't recognize showed up, took down the beast, and then disappeared just as fast. Looked annoyed, clearly not buying whatever was going on. He didn't waste any time and demanded the axe, confident in his call. He knew for sure now the blood axe giant was standing right in front of him. He stared straight at Luo, his eyes locked on him. He knew right away this was Luo's kid, the old patrol captain's son. In this world, monsters show up whenever rifts open, and things always get messy afterward. Every city has its own patrol team, made up of guys who have awakened powers. These teams go around the streets, keeping an eye out for trouble and making sure things stay safe. Luo's dad, Luo, used to be the head of patrol in Black Rock City. 3 years back, he was doing his usual patrol, but then he just vanished. No one really saw it coming. Luo stared at the battle axe, the one thing his dad handed down to him before disappearing. Every time he looked at it, he thought about his father and wondered where he'd gone. The axe felt heavy in his hands, but it was all he had left to remind him of the guy who used to be there. He had already told Luo to keep it a secret from everyone. Stared, trying to keep his surprise in check. He just couldn't believe what he was seeing. Luo had really handed over something that valuable to his own son. He let out a greedy laugh, already picturing the treasure as his. He leaned closer, his stare sharp and cold. He wanted answers about the missing axe, and he wasn't about to wait around. The message was clear: either give up the hiding spot, or things were going to get ugly. Luo shivered, uneasy about what was happening. Deep down, he wished none of this was real and just wanted out. Smile faded, turning serious. He realized the truth was being kept from him, but decided not to press any further. Luo pushed off the ground and landed right on top of his head. He gripped the axe tight, lifted it high, and slammed it down hard. Slammed hard into the cliff wall, his body hitting the rock after the force knocked him backward. Pushed himself up, brushing off the dust. He looked at the axe, its blade stained deep red, and couldn't help but scoff a little. Now he got it. This was the weapon behind that crazy strong hit. It made sense that even an ordinary guy could pack a punch with something like that. The secret was out now, and everyone knew. The tension in the room spiked. There was no going back. This was a point of no return. The air felt heavier, like something bad was about to happen, and he could sense that his own safety was suddenly on the line. He stood his ground, and something weird started happening to his arm. He unlocked his second stage iron frame power, thinking he had the upper hand. But the other guy wasn't impressed at all. He just yelled back, not backing down for a second. Luo raised his axe and went in for another strike, but was right there, blocking each swing with his fists. Neither of them backed down, matching each other's moves with serious focus. Couldn't help but laugh a little. He was impressed, honestly. He watched closely, curious to see what would happen next and just how far things could go. Luo kept swinging, his punches landing straight on raised fists. Stood his ground, blocking each hit. The sound of fists colliding echoed in the air, and both of them stayed focused, not backing down. Every hit showed just how determined Luo was and how tough could be. No matter how many times tried to find a weak spot, he just couldn't get past that defense. Every move he made got blocked, like there was no opening at all. It was starting to get frustrating, but he kept pushing, hoping he'd find a way through. At the end, he used up all the energy he had left and landed one big hit that knocked back hard. He noticed something weird moving through him, like a chill that wouldn't go away. The blood-red axe had this intense, dangerous energy coming off it, like it was trying to take him over. If he kept his transformed state much longer, he'd start to forget who he was, turning into someone who only cared about fighting and hurting others, with nothing left of his true self. Looked at him with a smug grin, clearly confident in himself. He seemed sure that the other guy didn't stand a chance, especially since his own iron frame was still holding strong. Luo found himself stuck with nowhere left to run. He quickly grabbed the small blue vial he'd been saving for a moment just like this. He tilted his head back and finished it all at once. He felt a sudden chill run down his spine. The ground in front of him started to freeze over, thin layers of frost slowly spreading out. One of the guys on the team noticed what was happening and looked pretty freaked out. He realized that the vial in question was actually the frost vial, the kind that could freeze your soul if you drank it. He couldn't believe someone might actually go through with it. Luo could barely move, his whole body almost locked up. Still, he clenched his jaw and reached out for the blood-red axe, pushing through the pain and refusing to give up. The ice around him broke apart, and just like that, his strength rushed back. He went for it and used his skill, ultimate slash. A sharp beam of red light shot forward, heading straight for. Suddenly, the whole canyon lit up as a blinding light shot into the sky. The sound that followed was so loud it bounced off the canyon walls, making everything rumble. Once the dust cleared, Luo had already tucked the axe away somewhere safe, hidden out of sight. His body was mangled from the hit, with one side ripped open and barely holding together. He couldn't believe what just happened. Someone he always thought was nothing special had just beaten him. It hit him hard, and he just stood there trying to process it all. As Luo stepped closer, started to freak out. He looked desperate, clearly scared for his life. He tried to save himself by offering up information, hoping Luo would let him go. Mentioned that their captain was already after the axe, trying to make it sound like Luo didn't stand a chance. Even though he was terrified, promised to help out if Luo spared him. Luo didn't even pause when started begging. He moved forward, not letting him get another word out. Without hesitation, Luo pushed his blade straight into his chest. Even as he finished the job, his face stayed cold and unreadable, like nothing about this bothered him at all. Even, who's considered pretty strong as a Tier 2 Awakener, seemed interested in his axe. That couldn't be good. Ever since that weird blue star showed up and invaded, the top people among humans started getting special powers. After the first awakening, strength got divided into 4 clear levels. At the bottom was basic, then came mid, then high, and at the top was peak. Awakenings happened in order. First came the initial one, then the second, the third, and they just kept going from there. Luo didn't have any special powers like the others. All his strength came from the blood-red battle axe he carried around, stuck in a regular human body. He could only use the kind of power you'd see from someone just starting out as a Tier 2 Awakener. He'd tried using enhancer serums over and over, hoping something would finally work, but every time the axe just broke them like they were nothing. He could tell the axe just wasn't having those cheap serums. He decided to work as a guide so he could team up with other Awakeners and go after better power stones inside the rifts. He knew time was running out. Hiding who he really was wasn't going to work for much longer. If got to him first, it would be too late. He had to really wake up before that happened. Once he made sure everyone else on the team was all right, Luo quietly headed off by himself, determined to find the Wind Spirit Pearl. The scene changed. He found a cave and decided to rest inside. Even though the cold inside him fought off the axe's deadly energy, a bit of that chill still stuck around. He just needed a good night's sleep to shake it off. Right at that moment, a huge spider came creeping out from the shadows. The thing shot right at him. An arrow suddenly shot out of the darkness and slammed into the wall, trapping it right there. Luo ended up crashing in the cave for the night. By sunrise, he was back on his feet and heading out again, ready to track down the Wind Spirit Pearl. Behind him, the cave floor was covered with dead monsters. He made his way into the dark mist forest. The whole place was crawling with some seriously tough shadow mantises, all at the top of their game. He glanced at the clock and realized he was running out of time. Normally, he liked to take the longer route, but today he just couldn't. With no other option, he picked up the pace and headed straight for the shortcut, hoping it wouldn't slow him down. He grabbed a bunch of dry reeds, set them on fire, and threw them forward. Thick black smoke started to fill the air, pushing the mantises back and making them scatter. Luo didn't waste any time. He spotted his chance and sprinted forward, slipping through before anyone could react. He made his way deeper into the woods until he finally got to the center. Just starting out at Tier 2 stood wide open on the ground. Its petals looked sharp and dangerous, almost daring anyone to come closer. Luo's eyes brightened when he spotted what he was looking for. It matched exactly what he'd heard about, and right then, he knew he'd found it. Behind there was a hidden cave. People said this cave was a secret path that could help someone win at. Luo recognized the shortcut right away. He remembered his dad talking about it back when he was a kid. That memory popped into his head as he looked around, piecing things together. There was right in the way, and now he had to figure out what to do about it. Right at that moment, a top-level tusk beast burst onto the scene, charging straight in. As soon as it got close to it stopped dead in its tracks, fear taking over. Out from behind it, a bunch of shadow mantises crawled into view. The mantises had driven the beast into this spot. The tendrils whipped out fast, grabbing hold of the tusk beast before it had a chance to react. In a split second, it got pushed right into the bright, glowing flower. A few moments passed, and the whole thing was gone. Luo couldn't believe what he was seeing. His eyes went wide as he watched the shadow monsters teaming up with actually helping it hunt. Things had just gone downhill for him. He knew he couldn't do anything right away, so he decided to hold back and look for a better chance. Night crept in and along with the mantises, finally dozed off. Luo waited for this moment. He spotted his chance, then quietly jumped down from the tree, making sure not to wake anything below. He decided to just sprint right through. His movement made the mantises snap to attention. Luo reacted fast and reached for his bow right away. An arrow shot straight through the first guy, dropping him instantly. The sound woke up the other creatures nearby. Luo clenched his jaw, realizing there was no way to avoid what was coming next. He squared up, ready to throw down, fully prepared to face whatever was about to happen. He called out the blood-red battle axe from nowhere, and just like that, everything about him changed. He landed hard on the ground, the impact jolting up through his legs. The next moment, moment, he rushed ahead and sliced through the mantis that was coming at him. He reached out and got hold of another guy by the head. He threw it as hard as he could straight at the suddenly lost control, sending a bunch of thick vines shooting up from the ground. They whipped through the air, all of them coming straight at him. Luo cut down the monsters one after another, not slowing down at all. Each time he swung his weapon, another one fell. He kept moving forward, focused and determined, clearing a path through the chaos. At the same time, he pushed himself through the crowd, determined to get to the cavern. He charged past, barely slowing down, making it clear he wasn't stopping for anyone. He used his invincible tornado skill and sent all the creatures flying backward. He was almost there, just a few meters away from the cavern, but the monsters behind him kept coming, closing in fast and not showing any signs of letting up. They wanted him gone, and he could feel the danger getting closer with every step. Luo spun around and held his axe out in front, letting the vines fling him right into the cave. Once he was inside, he put the axe away fast and turned back into his skinny self. He knew he had to hurry before those monsters spotted him. He took off running. He made his way towards the end of the cavern, almost out. He stared up at Wind, taking it all in. This was the place everyone talked about, the one with all the stories behind it. He couldn't help but feel a bit nervous, but also kind of pumped to finally see it for himself. Lightning filled the whole sky, flashing non-stop. Every breath felt sharp, like the air itself was buzzing with electricity. Out of nowhere, a blade swung straight at him, cutting through the air fast. Luo reacted fast, calling out the blood-red battle axe just in time to block the attack. He called out, trying to figure out who was around. His voice echoed as he scanned the area, looking for anyone who might be hiding nearby. Captain showed up out of the storm, looking annoyed and kind of smug. He spotted the blood-red axe just like he expected, and it was clear he'd been standing around for hours, waiting for this moment. Luo's expression changed. He hadn't thought anyone would track him down so fast. Stared him down, his voice icy and unfriendly. He demanded whatever the other guy had, making it clear that the only reason he might let him walk away was because of his dad. The tension in the air was heavy, and nobody moved. Luo didn't back down. He stood his ground, staring straight at the guy across from him. If anyone wanted that axe, they'd have to step up and get it themselves. No way was he handing it over without a fight. Didn't even think twice, he just sprang forward. Luo took a hit so hard it sent him flying backward, his feet leaving the ground. Luo clenched his jaw, frustrated. He knew he couldn't do anything to stop the guy, no matter how hard he tried. Couldn't help but smirk. He looked at the axe, thinking about how strong it was. With that weapon, Immortal was basically as tough as someone who just started out in Tier 2. He shouted out, calling on his scorching flame ability. His sword lit up, flames running along the edge. He swung it, sending a line of fire cutting through the air. Fire burst out like a wild wave, rushing straight toward Luo. The blast went off, echoing so loud it felt like the ground was shaking. Once the smoke faded away, Luo walked out from the burning wreck, his skin still marked by the heat. He grabbed 2 frost vials and drank them both super fast. Right away, he could feel his power shoot up. His eyes opened wide. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. That kind of power was already a Tier 2, high level, way above what he expected. Luo could feel the power rushing through him, but his body couldn't keep up. He was already past what he could handle, every muscle straining as if about to give out. He pushed himself to keep going, knowing he had to take down before his own body gave out. No matter how hard he tried, just dodged every move like it was nothing. Stepped forward, ready for action. He prepared his move, focusing hard, then launched into his flame triple slash, bringing all his energy into the attack. 3 fiery streaks cut across the sky. With nowhere else to go, pushed himself right off the edge of the cliff. Stopped in his tracks, completely caught off guard that someone like him would even think about ending things. He hurried over to the edge and stared down. The drop below seemed to go on forever, swallowed up by darkness. Right at that moment, an arrow flew by and slammed into the cliffside, sticking deep into the rock. Luo grabbed the rope and pushed off hard, using all his strength to swing himself up. He moved fast, aiming higher with every bit of momentum he built. He landed right on top of an old, dried-up tree trunk. He grabbed a healing potion and drank it quickly. Right away, his cuts started to close up, and he could feel his body getting stronger. His body was totally worn out and couldn't handle the blood transformation anymore. Right then, someone floated over Wind. Up in the air, a woman with long hair stopped when she spotted standing underneath her. It was Miss Ming, the same girl always thought about. She'd shown up too, looking for the Wind Spirit Pearl just like him. She managed to float for a bit, using her wind powers to lift herself off the ground. Luo paused, thinking hard about what he should do next. He noticed a sudden glint on the far-off cliff wall, something quick and bright that grabbed his attention. He wondered if there might be treasure hidden there. He felt excited as he got ready, grabbing his bow and tying a rope to it. With a quick move, he swung himself across and landed on the other side. He landed on the other side of the cliff and saw there was a glow coming out of a cavern. Inside, a crystal sat there, pulsing gently with light. He stared at the stone in his hand, barely believing what he was seeing. It was a thunder stone, One of those rare finds everyone talked about online. Just holding it made his heart race. He was right there, ready to take down. Lightning crashed down from the sky. Luo quickly threw himself backward, just managing to get out of the way in time. 1 second the thunder stone was there. The next it was just a pile of broken rocks. Out of the stone wall, a huge thunder lizard showed up. It was one of the strongest of its kind, and as soon as it noticed him, it didn't hesitate. It went straight for him. Luo moves fast, picking up bow and firing off 3 arrows straight at its head. The arrows shot through the air, but they hardly made a dent in the thunder lizard's crackling shield. The electric barrier just sizzled, brushing off the attacks like nothing happened. The beast charged forward, its jaws open wide, looking ready to tear into anything in its way. Luo ducked backward, barely dodging the attack as he slid underneath it. He knew right away that, unless he transformed, he was outmatched in both strength and speed. He had to come up with something fast or he'd be done for. Just then, the thunder lizard jumped high into the air, its belly now wide open. Luo's eyes widened as he spotted something important. The creature's weakest spots were right where its arms and legs connected to its body. Even though it had some kind of shield, hitting those spots straight on would mess it up badly. He pulled back his bow and let the arrows fly, hitting the beast right in its joints. The thunder lizard let out a loud cry when both of its front legs got stabbed. Lightning shot out wild from its body, lighting up the whole cave. Luo knew he had to act fast while the thing was stuck. He focused, pushing down his nerves. Now was his chance, and he wasn't about to waste it. He looked up and noticed a huge boulder sitting right above the monster. He ducked under the swinging attacks and aimed his shot straight at the stone. 3 arrows hit at the exact same time. The boulder split and fell, crushing the thunder lizard underneath. Luo didn't waste any time. He just ran straight in, not stopping to think twice. He pushed his sword straight through the creature's head. After what felt like forever, he finished up. He let out a long breath, almost like he'd been holding it in the whole time. He knew that if the ground hadn't been on his side, he'd be the one not getting up right now. He looked around the cavern, eyes drawn to all the thunderstones scattered everywhere. He couldn't help but want to know more about them. He moved in closer, slipping through the flashes of lightning that shot past him. Up ahead, a bright light started to shine, catching everyone's attention. He took a few steps forward and ended up in a huge room. Above him, there was an opening where the wind rushed in from outside. Down below, wild energy was moving around, almost alive. Right in the middle of the air, the wind spirit pearl just floated there, waiting. But a wild storm swirled all around it, way too much for him to handle right now. Under the pearl, wild bolts of lightning crackled and flashed. Luo's eyes lit up with excitement when he spotted this was the real story behind it all. The storms that never seemed to end, the wild winds and constant lightning crashing around wind thunder cliffs, actually came from the wind spirit pearl and the thunder pool. The first bits of sunlight started sneaking into the cave. Light slipped into the pearl, disappearing inside it. A thin line of violet light started to spread out. Right then, a flood dragon shot out of the creature opened its mouth and gulped the pearl down in one go. It turns out the pearl gathers up the first light of dawn, soaking in that special energy right as the sun comes up. A few seconds later, the dragon coughed and spit the pearl right back out. He slipped under the rough, swirling water again. Now it all made sense. The dragon was the one who created the pearl. He could tell from the way it carried itself that this beast was fresh, just hitting tier 3. He was glad he'd held back and not jumped in without thinking. Right now, he just had to sit tight and hope the storm would calm down. There wasn't much he could do except watch as the other ability users stepped up to face the beast. Outside, more awakened fighters started showing up at the edge of the cliff. Miss Ming showed up not long after. She told everyone that stuff like this usually meant there were treasures hidden somewhere close by. She wasn't interested in the whole haul, though. She just wanted the wind spirit pearl and hoped she could at least get that. Took a step closer, wearing a smug grin. He wasn't backing down, even with Miss Ming's strong reputation. The wind spirit pearl was up for grabs, and made it clear he was ready to compete for it, just like everyone else. The guys around him started cheering right away, totally backing him up. Miss Ming's face changed as she realized someone had turned against her. She looked upset, her eyes narrowing as she tried to keep it together. The officer nodded, giving Captain a look that said he wouldn't forget this moment. It was almost like a silent challenge, as if he was sizing up, wondering if he'd always be this gutsy. She took a deep breath and charged right into the storm, not even hesitating. The other ability users got loud and started yelling, each one sure they deserved the treasure. Without waiting, they all rushed forward, determined to grab it for themselves. As soon as they stepped inside, everything changed. The room felt different, like the air got heavier and quieter all at once. Every little sound seemed louder, and everyone looked around, trying to figure out what was going on. It was clear something wasn't quite right, and nobody could ignore it. Suddenly, fear hit him. The mountain was crawling with thunder lizards. Noticed things were getting risky. He quickly called out to the others, trying to get everyone to stick together. He knew if they didn't watch each other's backs, they wouldn't make it. Everyone in the crowd nodded along and gave their approval right away. Miss Ming didn't even hesitate. She looked at the guys and turned them down without a second thought. She wasn't interested in teaming up with people she didn't respect. Miss Ming took off by herself, running straight into the swarm. She moved so fast, it was almost impossible to keep up. Every attack came her way, but she slipped through the gaps like it was nothing. Beasts dropped one after another as she moved through them, her blade cutting them down before they even saw her coming. The other ability users didn't want to fall behind, so they rushed in too. Everybody could tell the treasure was just up ahead. If they didn't move fast, someone else would snatch it first. After a while, Air, who always had money to throw around, and Captain Yuan managed to push their way in as well. Was pretty weak, and honestly, he would been done for if Yuan hadn't put himself on the line to protect him. Honestly, if it weren't for pure luck, he'd probably be toast by now. His face tightened with guilt. He hadn't seen these massive beasts coming, especially not this early. Inside, he blamed himself for everything that just went wrong, thinking Captain was probably upset with him. 4 huge thunder lizards suddenly charged straight at them. Right when things started to get serious, Miss Ming showed up out of nowhere. She took out the troublemakers in no time, not even giving them a chance to react. She lost her cool as soon as she saw standing there. It was the last person she expected to run into, and it threw her completely off. Hesitated for a second, his words catching in his throat as he tried to explain himself. He'd come to help Miss Ming get the Wind Spirit Pearl, but it wasn't easy to say out loud. She didn't even let him finish. She just turned away, acting like she didn't care at all. It was clear she wanted him gone, like he didn't belong there. The ability users went all out, showing what they could really do when they didn't hold back. The thunder lizards didn't stand a chance. One by one, they all got taken down until none were left. The crowd finally started to calm down. Huge balls of lightning start pouring down from the sky, lighting up everything around them. The explosions hit right in the middle of the fighters, sending everyone scrambling and throwing the whole group into confusion. Once the smoke faded away, everyone could see a massive Thunder Lizard King standing right in front of them. The Thunder Lizard King showed up, massive and crackling with energy. He was at the top of Tier 2, which meant he wasn't going down easy. The group realized they didn't stand a chance alone, so they got ready to take him on as a team. Miss Ming said no again. Wind whipped around her as she flew over to the B-side. She focused all the wind power she had into her sword. She let out a shout and used her wind blade move. With one quick swing, she sliced the beast right in half. Everyone stared in disbelief when they saw what just happened. It was the kind of moment that made people freeze, eyes wide, not sure if they could trust what they were seeing. The Monster King went down with just one hit. Stared, eyes narrowing, and this uneasy feeling crept over him. Whoever did that was already a Tier 3, which meant things were about to get way tougher. Everyone would be fighting hard for the treasures now, and it wasn't going to be pretty. After the Beast King went down, everyone rushed up the hill, eager to see what would happen next. They made it to the top of the mountain pretty fast. The fighters packed themselves at the edge of the cave, all trying to get a better look at whatever was down there. Each guy leaned forward, pushing for a spot where he could actually see. No one wanted to miss out on what was happening below. Luo waited below, hanging around for a while. When he finally spotted them showing up, he couldn't help but mutter under his breath, glad they'd arrived at last. He blocked off the tunnel with some rocks so nobody would spot him. Then he crouched inside, keeping out of sight, and quietly watched everything happening outside. Miss Ming stepped down before everyone else. She spotted the Wind Spirit Pearl floating right in the middle, but something in her gut told her things weren't right. She stepped back fast, putting some space between her and whatever was in front of her. Something was off about this pearl. Usually it would stay tucked away during a storm, not just float around where anyone could see it. Even so, some guys couldn't help themselves and hurried to grab it first. Lightning shot out of the pool all of a sudden. He hit one of the ability users so hard with his attack that the guy turned to ash right there. More bolts came flying in right after. He took out a few more guys in an instant. Everyone looked over when someone spoke up about a powerful beast hiding under the water. The guys realized they couldn't handle this on their own. If they wanted any chance of getting through this, they'd have to team up and face it together. Nobody was safe until that monster was taken down. If anyone even tried to grab the pearl, they didn't make it out alive. Nobody really expected it, but Miss Ming actually said yes this time. The fighters hung out by the side of the pool, trying to come up with a plan. After arguing for a while, the group finally agreed to send someone in as bait, hoping he could grab the pearl before anything went wrong. If they kept blocking the attacks side by side, the beast would have to show itself eventually. With pressuring him, the unlucky guy had no choice but to start climbing the cliff wall. He was so close to reaching the Wind's Spirit Pearl, just about to touch it as he struggled upward. Lightning shot out from the thunder pool again. The fighters went all out, showing off their most powerful moves. He struggled to keep it together, trying not to let everything spill out at once. He thought he was just one step away from making it. The surface of the pond turned solid, ice spreading quickly as a huge figure slowly rose up behind him. The creature swallowed him and the pearl in one big gulp. Everyone froze when they saw the flood dragon. Its roar was so loud it felt like the ground shook and lightning came crashing down everywhere. The group that had been working together just moments before broke apart right away. Nobody was sticking around after that. The guys spotted the beast, and it was already a tier 3, way stronger than anything they'd faced before. If they wanted to grab the treasure, taking down that monster was the only way. Everyone knew it, and the tension was thick as they geared up for the fight. The dragon turned sharply in the air and dropped straight toward the pool. Shot his hand out trying to stop it. Fire suddenly blasted across the water, cutting off the dragon as it tried to get away. But that just made it even angrier. The dragon's huge tail suddenly swung around, heading straight for it. He slammed into the cliff wall, so hard it felt like his whole body might break. Old Mo shouted, his voice echoing through the chaos. He wanted everyone to focus on saving their friend, knowing that if they hesitated or let fear take over, they'd all be in trouble. The group could sense how serious things had gotten. If they didn't stick together, they knew they wouldn't stand a chance. The fighters let loose with everything they've got, slamming their attacks straight into the dragon's tail. Old rushed forward, knocking the tail out of the way. His friends grabbed him by the arms and pulled him out. Right then, Miss Ming, who was known as the toughest one there, finally stepped in. She stood there totally unfazed and let everyone know the wind's spirit pearl was inside the dragon. Her plan was simple: take down the beast and claim the prize for herself. Without hesitating, she looked around, checking to see who else was ready to jump in and face the dragon with her. Nobody said a word. Everyone's attention was glued to the fight happening up front. Right then, the flood dragon sent a blast of lightning straight at Miss Ming. She moved fast, her blade cutting through the air as she called on her wind skill. The attack sliced forward, sharp and quick, as she used Void Break. The impact hit Medea hard, echoing through the air and knocking her off her feet. She went flying backward from the force, barely able to catch herself as the noise rang in her ears. She slammed her sword into the dirt at the last second, using it to slow herself down. Froze, eyes wide. He couldn't believe what he just saw. She blocked the monster's lightning like it was nothing. One of the bigger guys, muscles bulging under his shirt, stepped forward. He didn't look scared at all. He made it clear he wasn't about to back down from the fight. Even though the beast looked crazy strong, he believed it could be beaten. He let everyone know he was ready to join Miss Ming, determined to see things through. After everything they'd been through, he had no plans to walk away with nothing to show for it. Miss Ming reached into her bag and pulled out an artifact that shimmered under the light. In front of her, the Thunder Dragon was already a tier 3 mid-stage, way too strong for one person to handle alone. But Miss Ming wasn't empty-handed. What she held was a tier 3 relic called the. Everyone moved fast, grabbing the net and tossing it out as one. They worked together, closing in around whatever was inside. One guy stepped forward, ready to finish things off once it was trapped. Right when she gave the signal, the golden net shot out, stretching wide and fast as it dropped over the dragon. The dragon let out a loud roar, then spun around and took off, clearly picking up on something dangerous nearby. Miss Ming dashed after him, not letting him get away that easily. She was on his tail, making it clear he wasn't escaping this time. But then she stopped for a second and glanced around, like she could tell something was close. Luo hid deep in a crack between the rocks, barely making a sound as he held his breath. He started to panic a little, hoping she hadn't spotted him. His heart beat faster, and he tried to act casual, not wanting to draw any attention. Ms. Ming hurried after the dragon, moving fast and not holding back. She went in with a strong attack, her weapon cutting through the air as she tried to land a solid hit. The beast fought back, launching a huge ball of lightning right at them. Ms. Ming stayed cool and steady. She reached into her pocket and took out a wind crystal. She nailed it. Energy rushed through her, almost like it was spinning around her in every direction. She called out her move, Skill Storm Fall, her voice cutting through the chaos. A massive beam of light ripped across the sky, breaking apart the dragon's thunderball. The energy kept building up and crashed right into the dragon's chest. The beam shot right through the dragon's neck. Blood burst out everywhere in Medea while the dragon let out a painful scream. Everyone notices the dragon is hurt, so they all move in fast, working together to close the net around it. The group isn't messing around. They're focused, determined to end this fight while they've got the upper hand. Everyone kept the pressure on, making sure there was no way for anyone to slip away. Miss Ming jumped way up and landed right on the dragon's back. She lifted her sword, aiming to finish the fight. Her blade sliced through the air, fast and sharp, almost too quick to see. It was like a sudden burst, cutting straight ahead with serious power. The dragon let out a loud roar and ripped the net to pieces in an instant, turning a dangerous situation into total chaos. The creature released its main burst of thunder, trying to fight back against the attack. Right after the impact, the explosion was insanely loud, like the kind of boom that rattles your bones and leaves your ears ringing. It was the sort of blast that makes everything around you shake and leaves a cloud hanging in the air. The blast slammed everyone against the cliff walls, leaving them not sure if they'd make it out okay. The flood dragon slumped down into the thunder pool, struggling to breathe. It looked totally wiped out, like it had used up every bit of energy just to stay alive. Miss Ming wasn't doing much better. Blood dripped from her lips as she dropped down on one knee, clearly struggling to stay up. The dragon slowly lifted its head, its eyes lighting up as it finally managed to open them. As the creature was about to die, it forced out the wind spirit pearl, making sure humans couldn't get their hands on it. Miss Ming lunged for it, her hand shooting out fast, almost like she thought it might disappear if she hesitated. Jumped in front of her, putting himself in the way without even thinking. He looked at Miss Ming with a confident grin, totally sure this treasure was his and no one else's. She glared at, her eyes burning with anger, like she was ready to explode. It was clear she'd had enough of his nonsense, and he was seriously pushing his luck. Stretched out his hand, reaching toward the pearl. She called out, moving fast. With one quick hit, was taken out right away. She could barely stay on her feet after the hit. Blood slipped from her lips as she started to go down, her energy totally gone. She couldn't keep herself up anymore and started to drop. Luo suddenly jumped out from the darkness. He changed right away and went for the pearl. His hand grabbed the wind spirit pearl, and just like that, it was his. He slammed the blood axe into the side of the cliff, using it to catch himself before he dropped any farther. He knew he had what everyone wanted, but now all eyes were on him. It was like suddenly being the main character in a game where everyone else was after you. He could feel the pressure building, knowing he couldn't let his guard down for even a second. He took off running straight for the exit, not wasting a second. He looked around at the mess, thinking about how lucky he was to find that secret tunnel just in time. If he hadn't, he would ended up like everyone else. A system alert popped into his head, letting him know that his transformation was about to run out of time. Luo ran into the thick forest, breathing hard. He figured this spot would keep him hidden, at least for a little while. He stared at the wind spirit pearl in his hand, realizing just how rare and valuable it was. He looked at the awakening stone in his hand, thinking this might be his chance. If he used it, he was pretty sure his power would finally unlock. Just the thought of it got his heart racing a little. He couldn't start just yet. First, he had to find a place that was totally safe and out of sight before even thinking about the ritual. Only ever knew about his blood axe transformation, and now was gone, taken out by Miss Ming. This meant that if he just stayed in his current form, nobody would ever find out he'd taken the pearl. Miss Ming suddenly popped up right in front of him, catching him totally off guard and making his heart race. Before he could even move, she started coughing again, blood spilling from her mouth. She pressed her weight against her sword, barely holding herself up before dropping down on one knee. She tried to catch her breath, making it clear she wasn't there to steal anything. Instead, she wanted to talk about making some kind of deal. He handed over the demon core he got from the thunder dragon he'd defeated. Compared to the wind spirit pearl, this thing was way more valuable. He didn't have any of that awakened power everyone talked about. Instead, he was planning to use the pearl, hoping it would do the trick. But there was something else, a demon core that actually worked way better than the pearl, even if not many people knew about it. He watched the glowing orb in her hand, not really sure what was going on or how to react. Right then, the blood axe started making noise in his head, pushing him to take it in right away. His heart jumped. She really was telling the truth, and even the axe wanted the same thing. He wondered how they'd managed to track him down. She admitted she had wind powers, but her voice was barely there. If she got close enough, she could figure out where the pearl was hiding. He felt a wave of relief when he realized his secret was still safe. There was nothing to worry about, so he just went along with the deal. Miss Ming smiled softly, looking a little thankful. The wind spirit pearl clearly meant a lot to her. While they traded items, she checked out the pearl in her hand and seemed to relax, finally looking like she could breathe easy. One moment she was standing there, and the next her legs just gave out. She dropped to the floor, completely still. He hurried over to her, calling out as he reached her side. He reached over and checked her pulse. She was totally out cold. He hadn't expected her to go down like this. She always seemed tough. Clearly, she was hurting way more than he realized. He decided it was smarter to stay out of trouble for now. Tom wanted to trust things would work out, at least for the moment. He started to leave, but something kept him from walking away. There was a girl on the ground, hurt and clearly not okay. Even though he really wanted to just get out of there, he couldn't just pretend she wasn't there. He let out a heavy breath and carefully picked her up, settling her onto his back. Even though the situation was rough, he couldn't just walk away and leave her behind. Something about her made it impossible to ignore, so he pushed through, carrying her with him. It didn't take him too long to spot a small cave nearby, so he set his stuff down and made camp there. After some time passed, Miss Ming finally opened her eyes. She stared at him, clearly puzzled, and made an effort to push herself upright. She glanced up at him, barely able to keep her eyes open. She couldn't figure out why he'd bothered to help her out. He could have just grabbed the wind spirit pearl and everything else she had, then walked away without a second thought. He couldn't help but smile. He knew he wasn't perfect, but stealing from someone who was already down just wasn't his style. Deep down, he liked helping people out when he could. Ming gave a small, tired smile. She introduced herself, letting them know her name. Luo reached out his hand, introducing himself with an easy confidence. He noticed right away that this survivor stood out. She was definitely the prettiest one he'd seen since all this chaos started. She quietly quietly shared that she knew a secret ritual that could unlock the Thunder Dragon's demon core all the way. She promised to help once she got her strength back. With a core like that, he had a real shot at getting a king rank ability. He just stood there not moving, totally caught off guard. This was way more than he ever saw coming. Looking back, helping her out seemed like the move he'd ever made. While they hung out and cooked some meat over the fire, she brought up something about how there were different ranks for abilities. He answered without hesitating, listing off the different ability ranks: lower, middle, upper, and king. She nodded, letting him know he was right. Then she brought up something even bigger, a god rank. Most people had only heard about it in old stories. She explained that your ability rank isn't just about how strong you are right now. It also decides how much stronger you can actually get in the future. He paused, kind of surprised. He'd never heard about weight limits before, so this was all new to him. She laughed a little, thinking about how he was from Black Rock City, a place that always seemed kind of small town compared to everywhere else. Guys who end up with a lower rank ability are stuck at tier 1. No matter how hard they try, they just can't level up past that point. Guys in the middle rank could make it to tier 3, but if you were in the upper rank, you could push all the way up to tier 6. King rank abilities only went up to tier 9, but nobody really knew what god rank could do yet. Ming Lan just kept going. In City, the toughest guy around only managed to reach P tier 3. He got there because he awakened a middle rank ability, but that was as far as he could go. In places like, it's almost impossible for anyone to unlock higher ranks. It's not just that the special relics needed are hard to find. People also don't have access to the right awakening ceremonies. Luo let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Saving her was definitely the right move, even if it cost him the Thunder Dragon's demon core. If he hadn't helped, things might have turned out way worse for him. He might not have ever woken up. Ming Lan decided she owed Luo for saving her, so she offered to help him awaken using a ritual her family had kept hidden for generations. She made sure he understood it was something he couldn't tell anyone about. Over the next 3 days, Ming Lan got everything ready. She set up a special circle called the Moonlight Awakening Array, waiting until midnight when everything was still and the moon was bright. When the time came, Luo sat in the center of the circle, feeling the weight of what was about to happen. Ming Lan explained that this was the only way he'd ever be able to truly sense the energy inside an awakening relic and actually absorb it. With everything set, she started the ritual and the air around. She let her wind power loose. The array lit up, and strange glowing symbols started to appear everywhere. Energy surrounded Luo, and for a moment it felt like he was somewhere else entirely. Leaned in close, quietly reminding him not to get distracted. He had to pay attention. There was something powerful inside the Thunder Dragon's demon core. Wanted him to move closer and try to connect with that energy, to let himself become one with it. Power from the demon core surged straight into the spot between his eyebrows, making his head buzz. 1 second, Luo was just standing there, and the next, he found himself in this weird place. All around him, ancient lightning snapped and flashed, lighting up everything with a wild energy. He figured this had to be the Thunder Dragon's core. The lightning crackling all around wasn't just for show, it was basically what the creature was made of. He reached out his hand, careful and a little unsure, and started to pull the lightning from the core toward himself. He expected the essence to fight back or do something wild, but it just kind of settled. It didn't hit him hard or anything. Instead, it seemed like he could actually take it in, almost like it was meant to be absorbed. He noticed a small boost in his energy. Was this what they called awakening? He leaned in and gave it everything he had, drawing in the lightning energy as fast as he could. Lightning twisted all around him while he pulled its energy in. With his steady grip, he kept pulling until the demon core finally broke apart and disappeared, completely absorbed. Nick felt a sudden rush of energy through his whole body. Scars and injuries he'd had for ages just faded away, like they'd never happened. Luo heard his name. He was still groggy, blinking his eyes open, trying to figure out where he was and what was going on. His head felt fuzzy, but he could tell that someone nearby was checking to see if he was okay after everything that just happened. He replied that it went pretty well. Controlling the lightning felt natural, almost like it was just part of him now, easy like moving his own arms. Still, something was off. The lightning was blue, but deep down, he could tell there was something else at the center, like a hint of violet thunder hiding under the surface. Ming just nodded, acting like it was no big deal. He explained that since the guy just awakened, it made sense that he couldn't use his king rank ability at its strongest yet. It was normal, and nobody could expect to control that kind of power right away. He checked to see if anyone was hurt. Ming Lan gave a quick wave, letting everyone know he was all right. He stood ready, telling the others to try out their new power on him. He wanted to see what they were capable of. Luo, unsure of how strong his new lightning powers really were, sent a careful jolt toward her, trying not to overdo it. Ming Long watched closely, impressed by how powerful the lightning looked. It was wild seeing someone just awaken and already reach P Tier 1. Still, he could tell the guy was new to this. The attacks were all over the place, not really landing the way they should. Clearly, he needed a lot more practice to really get it right. Luo heard what was said and just smirked. Without missing a beat, he brought out his blood axe, getting ready to show what he could really do. Ming just stood there, not moving at all, stunned by how fast everything had changed. Luo spotted an opening and didn't hesitate. He tightened his grip on the axe, letting electricity crackle along the handle. With one quick move, he charged straight at her, swinging with everything he had. Minglan didn't waste any time. She steadied herself, lifted her sword, and called on her wind power. The air around her shifted as she pushed back against the attack, holding her ground. The blow landed hard and knocked her off her feet, sliding her backward across the ground for a few meters. She caught herself fast, not letting anyone see her stumble. She watched his transformation, clearly surprised by what just happened. When he used his power with the lightning, it got way stronger, almost too strong for her to handle. Right now, he was fighting at the top level for someone just below the very best. Luo lowered his axe and gave a small grin, thinking he must gotten lucky this time. Gave a quick smile but kept things serious. King rank abilities hardly ever show up. Maybe one person out of 10,000 awakeners gets it. When someone does, they always end up with a special extra power too. His power was all about controlling the wind, which meant he could actually fly. He explained that with enough practice, anyone could unlock their own unique ability, just like he did. Luo had always believed that anyone who could control wind would be able to fly. He was surprised to find out that wasn't actually true. Ming couldn't help himself and started laughing. He thought if that was actually how things worked, the sky would probably be packed full. She slid her sword back into its sheath, looking at Luo with a serious face. Seeing him unlock a king rank ability and actually hold the blood axe was a big deal. Most people would never get that far. The way she acted made it clear she believed Luo had insane potential ahead of him. He thought about heading to Star City. That place was supposed to be where people really leveled up, way beyond what City had to offer. Felt way too small for him now, like he'd already everything there. If he wanted to actually get better, Star City was the move. Luo nodded with determination. As soon as he did, she lifted off the ground, floating upward. Her voice drifted down from above, reminding not to forget her. She wanted him to know she'd be out there waiting for him. Luo stood quietly, eyes locked on the horizon. His mind was set on one thing, getting to Star City. No matter what it took, he was ready to go after it. 2 days later, he finally made it to the exit of the secret realm. He looked around, kind of confused. Normally, this spot was packed with awakeners, but today it was empty. It felt off, almost like he'd shown up to a party after everyone had left. It was way too quiet. No birds, nothing. He frowned, starting to wonder if something was off. Just then, someone spoke from the darkness. Luo finally stepped out, catching everyone's attention. Luo looked over his shoulder and spotted, just chilling against a rock wall, grinning like he'd been waiting forever. Didn't seem bothered at all, like handling the portal had been no big deal, even though it clearly hadn't been easy for him. Luo stared at the guy, his expression cool and distant. He seemed surprised, maybe even a little annoyed, that someone had been waiting around for him. Honestly, he didn't recognize the person at all, and it showed on his face. Everyone in New Old Mo, especially the patrol chief's kid, couldn't help but laugh, thinking there's no way the chief's son wouldn't recognize him. The idea of someone pretending not to know who he was just seemed funny to him. Modong looked down at the wind spirit pearl in his hand, a smug grin on his face. He acted like he was doing a favor, letting the other guy go just because of his dad. It was clear he thought he was in control, and he didn't mind showing it. Luo didn't bother to explain much. He just kept his cool and let everyone know that he'd already handed the pearl over to Miss Ming. He didn't seem interested in arguing or proving himself, just stated the facts and moved on. Mo lost his temper. He glared at Luo, thinking that if he took him out, the pearl would be his. Golden light flashed around his fists as he used his middle rank power, the Vajra fist, and swung straight at Luo. Luo didn't waste any time. He called out his blood axe, his body shifting as he got ready for a fight. Right away, he and his opponent went at it, one swinging an axe, the other throwing punches. Neither one could get the upper hand. They were totally matched, trading hits back and forth. Mo stared at the kid, surprised at how strong he was. Still, decided it was time to put an end to things. His expression turned serious, and he braced himself, ready to finish what he started. Not even a second passed before tons of golden fists came charging in, all aiming straight for Luo, clearly trying to take him out for good. Luo didn't back down. He swung his axe hard, lightning crackling along the blade. You could tell he wasn't about to let anyone push him around, and if someone got in his way, they'd have to deal with him. He stood there, eyes locked on his target, looking totally sure of himself. He was ready to show off his latest move, something he'd been working on for a while. Lightning seemed to crackle around him as he got into position, focused and intense. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, to prove just how strong he'd become. The blood axe sliced through the massive fists overhead, breaking them apart and clearing the sky. Mo barely had a second to react before the axe slammed right into him. Suddenly, a huge blast shook the whole place. Emo looked down at his injured hand, his mind racing. He couldn't believe what just happened. The guy facing him didn't even seem that powerful, at least not at first glance. But now, seeing his own hand messed up like that, realized he'd seriously underestimated him. He watched as the attack hit, surprised by how strong it was, almost as if it belonged to a higher level. He couldn't believe someone could pull off that much power, leaving him stunned for a second. Luo Tan couldn't help but smile to himself. Just a few days back, he wouldn't have stood a chance against someone like. Now, after taking down a strong Tier 2 opponent, he could really sense how far he'd come. That progress felt awesome, almost addicting. Luo raised his blood axe, aiming it right at the guy. He stared him down, wanting to know how this person figured out who he really was. Mo was desperate, trying anything to save himself. He wanted to spill whatever he knew, hoping it'd keep him alive. The secret he was about to share was something had trusted him with right before dying. A secret he probably wished he'd never heard. Luo's eyes turned serious. He really didn't want Mo to be the one who found out about the blood axe's secret. He finished off Mo without hesitating. As he watched, he couldn't help but think that secrets disappear when someone's gone. After everything wrapped up, Luo stepped out of the secret realm. At the exit, a man stopped him. He wanted to know how the kid managed to get out, since everyone thought Mo had already sealed the portal. Luo's eyes lit up, burning red with anger. He shot a cold look that made it clear he was done playing games. Anyone watching could tell this was a serious warning. If someone pushed too far or said the wrong thing now, they'd be risking way more than just his patience. The man stood there, hands shaking as he stared ahead. It was clear he couldn't hide how rattled he was. As Luo walked away, the man couldn't help but notice how intense his stare was. There was something cold and dangerous about it. Not long after, Luo pulled out his phone, his mind buzzing with thoughts he couldn't shake off. Luo checked his phone and saw that Uncle had called 75 times. He grabbed his phone and called back right away. Before he could even speak, Uncle was already yelling at him through the phone. Uncle sounded furious, calling him out for disappearing into the secret realm for more than 10 days. The guy had been so worried, he'd even sent people in after him, thinking something bad had happened. Luo shuffled out, looking a bit awkward. He realized there hadn't been any signal where he'd just been, and he probably missed something important. Uncle just seemed a little tired, telling Luo to get some rest and stop by his place the next day. Nothing big, just a reminder to check in. Luo ended the call and let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He'd made it through 10 days in the secret realm. It hadn't been easy, but he'd managed to awaken his ability. He looked out at the night lights shining over Black Rock City. Everything seemed far away, almost like it wasn't real. All he wanted now was to head home and crash for the night. Nothing sounded better than a solid sleep in his own bed. The next morning, his alarm went off, cutting through the quiet and dragging him out of sleep. Luo, still barely awake, swung his fist down and smashed his alarm clock. He dropped onto the bed, letting out a quiet sigh as he sank into the mattress. Suddenly, another alarm went off. He threw another punch, and everything went quiet. Pretty soon, all the clocks in the room started ticking together, their sounds overlapping and filling the air. Luo suddenly sat straight up, not able to hold it in anymore. He'd had it. Whatever was going on had pushed him past his limit. He rubbed his forehead, tired and restless. Sleep just wasn't happening, so he decided he had to go find Uncle Lin. He threw on his clothes and rushed through his morning routine faster than ever. He rushed out the door, realizing he was about to be late. A cab driver waved from his seat, catching the kid's attention. He looked like he was offering a ride, just doing his job and waiting to see if the kid would hop in. Luo just smiled and shook his head, turning down the offer without making a big deal about it. He didn't see the point of taking a taxi anymore. Now that he was an awakener, lightning cracked around him, and he could move way faster than before, like 10 times faster. He showed up at the Awakeners Association before he even knew it, barely catching his breath. As soon as Luo walked into the association hall, Uncle spotted him and hurried over, giving him a solid clap on the shoulder. It was clear Uncle had been waiting for him and wasn't shy about showing it. Luo couldn't help but smile a bit at how serious Uncle looked. It was obvious the old guy had been anxious, probably thinking Luo had disappeared or gotten into trouble again. Now that Luo was finally there, Uncle seemed both relieved and a little annoyed at the same time, like he wanted to scold him but was just glad to see him safe. Uncle flashed a mysterious grin as he reached into his coat and pulled out a small box. He looked like he was up to something interesting, and everyone could tell he had a surprise in store. He opened the box and saw a blue crystal glowing softly inside. It was one of the better ability stones, not the very best out there, but still way above average. Getting his hands on it hadn't been easy. Now it was time to see if this thing could actually help him unlock his powers. Luo shook his head and waved his hands, letting Uncle know he was okay. He didn't want any help, showing he could handle things on his own. He noticed the mid-tier stones and glanced at Uncle, not really impressed anymore. Uncle just lifted an eyebrow, like he was wondering if these stones weren't good enough for him now. Shook his head and made it clear he really meant it. The stone was important to him. He remembered all the times he got help finding stones, even if they didn't do much. That kindness always stuck with him. Uncle stood there with his arms crossed, looking pretty confident. He didn't seem bothered at all about spending money. After all, he was a Tier 3 Awakener and even the chairman of the association. Buying this wasn't a big deal for him, and he made it clear he could handle it without any problem. Luo couldn't help but smile a little. Deep down, he knew he had already woken up. Uncle stopped in his tracks, then started laughing. He couldn't believe it. His nephew had actually awakened. That was big news. Right away, Uncle wanted to know more, especially about the rank of the new ability. Luo couldn't help but smile to himself, soaking in the moment. He'd finally reached King rank. Uncle's eyes went wide. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. King rank? That was way above what he expected. Out of nowhere, he snapped his leg up for a quick kick, wanting to check if the other guy was actually ready. Luo moved out of the way again and again, quick on his feet. Every attack came at him, but he dodged them all without getting hit even once. Luo grinned to himself as he let a tiny spark of lightning jump from his fingers. He aimed for Uncle's foot, giving it a quick light tap with the electric jolt. Uncle suddenly stopped moving. His whole body stiffened up, like he'd just seen something he really didn't want to deal with. Luo couldn't help but laugh when he saw Uncle suddenly stuck in a splits position. Uncle's face tightened with embarrassment, clearly not happy about being caught like that. Still, he waited for Luo to stop laughing and give him a hand up. Uncle couldn't help but be impressed. He watched as the kid's abilities showed up strong right from the start, already reaching the peak of the first tier, even though he'd just awakened his powers. Uncle realized that even without using his own strength, he couldn't hold the kid back. If the boy's dad found out about this, he'd probably be over the moon. Luo looked over at Uncle, hoping he might have some answers about his dad. He wanted to know where his father had gone, and he figured Uncle was the best person to ask. There was a quiet pause as he waited, not sure what kind of response he'd get. He remembered how, when the guy vanished, everyone just thought he was gone for good, but he always felt like there was more to the story. Even now, he wasn't sure if the guy was still out there somewhere. Luo remembered the time when he and his dad had ended up in a weird, hidden place. Things went downhill fast. There was some huge disaster, and tons of other awakeners didn't make it out. In the end, only Luo and his father survived, all because they discovered something called blood axe while they were there. Uncle just shook his head, disappointed. He knew the blood axe had kept him down, making it impossible for him to awaken. His dad wasn't okay with that at all. Determined to figure things out, he probably followed every clue he found, chasing them all the way back to that realm. Luo leaned in, curious. He wanted to know where that realm was. Uncle pulled out a small box with strange markings on it. He seemed prepared, almost like he expected this moment. He handed the box over and made it clear what needed to be done next. Just a drop of blood was all it took to get things started. Luo did what he was told. He poked his finger, watched a single drop of blood gather, and let it fall onto the box. Uncle looked serious as he handed over a small box. He explained that he'd locked away some important info about the realm inside it. The catch? The box wouldn't open until someone managed to beat him and reach Tier 4. He gave a serious warning, making it clear that nobody should even think about opening it before they're ready. If someone wasn't strong enough, walking in there would be like asking for trouble. Luo held onto the box, nodding at Uncle. He understood what was going on and appreciated the gesture. Uncle gave him a quick pat on the shoulder. Now that he was awake, it was time to start learning about his abilities in a serious way. Uncle was curious if he had thought about what he wanted to do next. Luo told him to check out Star City's Ability Academy. It was one of the top schools in the South, and both his dad and Luo had gone there before, even if it was just as auditors. If he managed to get accepted, his dad would be proud for sure. Luo grabbed his bag and stepped onto the high-speed train heading for Star City. The train doors slid closed behind him as he found his seat, glancing out the window at the station slowly slipping away. He settled in, thinking about what might be waiting for him once he got there. He closed his eyes, hoping to get some rest. Just then, the guy sitting next to him got up. He tapped the person next to him, signaling he needed to step out. Trying not to make a big deal, he shuffled past, hoping not to bother anyone as he made his way out. Luo stood up and stepped aside so the other guy could walk by. But something didn't seem right. He paused, sensing that something was off. The man spun around, waiting to see what was going on. He looked ready to listen, curious about what someone needed from him. Luo stepped forward, not letting the guy off easy. He wasn't about to let someone just grab something and leave like nothing happened. The look on his face made it clear. He wanted answers, and he wanted them now. The guy started freaking out. He couldn't believe what he was hearing, and he looked like he was ready to start throwing accusations back just to defend himself. It was obvious he was on edge, scrambling for a way out of the mess. Luo didn't back down, pointing out the wallet in the guy's pocket. The man got nervous and tried to get out of it, almost begging. He reminded Luo that, as an awakener, getting involved in normal people's business wasn't really his place. Luo just stared, lost for words. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The guy had actually taken his wallet and was acting like it was no big deal. Luo just stood there trying to process how someone could be that bold. As soon as the train came to a halt, he brought the thief straight to the cops. Right when he was about to head out, someone called to him from behind. They wanted to let him know they'd just been trying to help earlier. Luo turned his head, confused. He wondered if he was supposed to recognize the person behind him. A good-looking guy strolled over with a confident smile, looking like he had everything under control. He recognized Luo right away and introduced himself as, mentioning that uncle had sent him to meet up. Luo reached out and shook hands with him. He felt a bit curious, wondering if this loud, flashy dude was really that uncle had talked about. Shen just waved it off like it was nothing. Back when he first got into Star City's Ability Academy, he was the only student from Black Rock City. Things felt a bit lonely. Now, with someone else from his showing up, he finally had someone to hang out with who understood where he came from. On the way there, quickly told them what happened with the pickpocket. Couldn't hold back his laughter. He realized that the guy wasn't trying to be a hero. He'd actually been robbed. The idea of a strong awakener losing his wallet like any regular person just cracked him up. It was one of those moments where reality was way funnier than anything he could have imagined. Luo wanted to steer the conversation away, so he got serious and asked his brother how things usually went with the academy entrance exam. He was really curious about what to expect and wondered if his brother had any advice for getting through it. Couldn't help but crack a smug smile. For him, exams were pointless. When someone had a king rank ability, that was all the proof anyone needed. All he had to do was walk up to the test panel, and the admission officers would lose their cool, treating him like some famous influencer. Not long after, they pulled up to Star City Ability Academy, pulled up to the gate in his sports car. But before he could get any further, a security guard came out and blocked his way. Shen frowned, confused. Why was someone stopping his car? He didn't get it. The guard didn't even bother to be friendly, just reminded about the last time he crashed into a barrier. Because of that, the student council had already decided he wasn't allowed to drive on campus anymore. Muttered to himself, pretty sure Ming had snitched on him again. The guard lifted his recorder, catching Shen off guard. Shen realized instantly he had messed up. Getting caught saying something like that about the discipline minister was bad news. He tensed up, panic creeping in as he tried to backtrack in his head, knowing he'd just landed himself in trouble. He quickly grabbed a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, holding it out as a way to say sorry. The guard just looked at him with a smirk, clearly not impressed. Trying to use cigarettes as a bribe only made things worse, and the guard seemed ready to add another charge to the list. Luo and brother finally stepped onto the campus. Luo looked around, taking everything in, then noticed how brother acted a little different. It was pretty clear to him that something about Ming Lan made brother uneasy. Just rolled his eyes. He wasn't scared, not even a little. After all, they were just classmates in their second year. She was the one in charge of discipline for the student council, and everyone knew she was seriously strict. She never cut anyone any slack, not even people from her own class. If someone messed around or tried to argue with her, they'd end up flat on the ground. Luo blinked in surprise. He hadn't realized it was actually possible for someone to throw hands right there on campus. Shen let out a long sigh, knowing things would get real soon enough. At this academy, everyone knew that being strong was what really mattered. Sure, fighting was supposed to be against the rules, but people just called it a training duel, and suddenly it was allowed. The council had the final say. Sometimes they'd call it a duel, other times they'd say it went too far. Luo looked around, thinking about how harsh things were getting. It really made him wonder if anything was fair in this place. Let out a groan, thinking about how unfair everything felt. He was struggling just to reach Tier 2, and meanwhile, she had already made it to Tier 3 last week. It wasn't even close. She was on a whole different level. Luo finally got it. Ming Lan went after the Wind Spirit Orb because she wanted to test herself. She was just as intense at the academy as she was out in the real world. Seeing that, it made sense why looked shaken up. Shen gestured toward the building up ahead, making it clear that was the student assessment center. It was just part of the process, nothing to stress over. He told the guy to go in and get the test done, promising to hang around outside. Once everything was sorted, Shen would help him find his dorm. Luo gave a quick nod, stepped into the building, and passed a form over to the staff at the desk. He was here for the entrance assessment, just like everyone else waiting their turn. The instructor looked over the form, not really rushing. He noticed right away that it was late, actually way past the deadline. Enrollment had already ended more than a month ago. His eyes snapped open wide. The form had a spot for his name, Luo, and right next to it, his ability rank was listed as King. Everyone in the room turned to look at Luo. Word had already gotten around about the kid who'd unlocked King rank Lightning, and now everyone wanted to see if the rumors were true. Luo could feel their eyes on him, some curious, some a little nervous. He kept his cool, not really showing what he was thinking. The teacher shot up from his chair and grabbed Luo's hand, looking pretty eager. Right away, he wanted to see if Luo was telling the truth. If it all checked out, the teacher was ready to get him signed up on the spot. Luo lifted his hand, and sparks of lightning danced over his palm. The detector lit up with a sharp blue glow, almost too bright to look at. The instructor stared in disbelief. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. A real king rank, and not just any kind, but one of the strongest ones out there. He couldn't help but laugh, clearly pumped about something. There was still one spot open for a special admission, and it looked like the timing couldn't have been better. Without wasting any time, he jumped in to sort out the admission on the spot. Out of nowhere, someone spoke up, their voice cutting through the moment and stopping everyone in their tracks. A man in a sharp suit showed up at the doorway, his eyes immediately finding Luo.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.